item is the approval of consent agenda, which includes the treasurer's report and approval of meeting minutes from our regular board meeting on May the 15th. So those are pages 11 through 27.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Deanna made it first. Jen made this second. Any comments? Russ? Dan?
No, I'm fine.
Jen? Okay.
Public comment.
Public comment?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. You were talking about those filters, and you thought it was 300. I personally thought it was 350. We've booked 270. We don't have anything new in the budget, so I'm wondering what is the price of that filter project?
And we said, rather than we'll bring it, we'll have it on our next month's agenda. I don't have it.
That's what I asked, and you guys said it's going to be on the treasury report, so I could ask my question.
No, I said too. I told you what my
I know what you said.
I knew we're around 300. That's what I remember, Wes. But
So I'm just asking the question now.
Right. Okay. And I will tell you that we'll have it. I have a note here. Filter project on next month's agenda.
I wrote it down myself.
Danny?
Yes. You watch and see. You watch.
I was a gentleman, and I didn't use my description here today because a while back you asked me not to call you a crony, and we ended up with you backing out on our deal. Okay, now we're backing out. Yeah, that was on the 45
Mr. West,
deal.
I'm going to call you out here on this too. If you
I'm
something,
leaving.
hold on.
Okay.
Listen. If you want something, information to be presented at these meetings, you know the protocols to get it done.
Backing out on our deal. Okay, now we're backing out. Yeah, that was on the
Mr. West, I'm going to call you out here on this too. If you want
I'm
something,
leaving.
hold on.
Okay.
Listen. If you want something, information to be presented at these meetings, you know the protocols to get it done. You know from running these meetings that you cannot come up here and ask a question that we might not be able to answer. And we're not going to answer because I don't have the information. Lou asked about the filter suit. I said, I think it was around 300. You said 350. You might be closer. But you know the protocol that if you want information to go to the district manager, you put us on the spot every month. I tell you this every month. So don't play this game with me, okay? If you want something, I will make sure it will be on next month's agenda because it's something that 2 people from the community have asked. We will have a recap, a summary of the work done and the expenses that we have had out. Pete noted in his report that we're going to spend an extra $4,500 to have the filters coated. You saw that in this report today. So I think that's fair. You be fair, we'll be fair. And that's what we're going to stop it right there. Okay? So
I don't have a choice.
That's right. You do have a choice. If you want some information at this meeting, to contact the district manager prior to the meeting. So my suggestion to you as well is when you get home, I know you have his email address, say, would you please have an agenda item of the filter project on next month's agenda and share with the community what expenses did the district incur for that project and what work was performed. That's a fair way to get it on there. And then if it's not on there, then we can have more conversation.
Page 16, under new capital improvement projects, list the budget to date at $267,161. And you're saying we spent $4,500 more. So bottom line is we're at $270.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Russ.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
It's all.
Yeah, I had
It's all. I can see.
Talking about the system leaks and repairs and all that, I was wondering, right after Mr. Campo left his first term of employment with the district, evidently there was work being started to cover up that 2-inch private water line on Director Ross's property because they considered it a big problem, that we didn't have an easement. And I've asked about that several times now and have never had an answer. Has that been remedied? And has a composite meter been placed out there on Brandon
If I remember
Springs?
correctly, you were on the board about, when you brought that up before, about that water line. And I'm going off the top of my head.
Sure, sure.
So, but I want to make sure, because I don't know what you do with your information. I want to make sure this is a long time ago, that was several years ago. I remember there was 2 houses out there that was fed off of 1 meter, and the 2 homeowners had some challenges. If that's the line you're talking about, we might be talking apples and oranges.
No, I think you're talking about the right one, but what I'm referring to is in 1998, right after Mr. Campa left, it was decided something needed to be done about that immediately. And as far as my knowledge, nothing has ever been done.
With bringing Pete into this, because...
Well, because when he mentioned the possibility of leaks...
Okay, let me finish, Lou. If you remember correctly, you brought that up at the meetings. Those 2 homeowners decided they wanted their own bill, and there was questions about it. And I know we're off our agenda, but to try to answer your question, there was another meter put in there, and both meters were red. If you remember that, because you were here at the meeting, I don't remember the customer's name, but both meters were red, and the composite meter was put in, and it showed that the amount of water was...
Oh, well, that's news to me. That's news to me. I never heard the composite was put in.
We're way off topic.
Yeah, okay, but going back to the leaks and stuff, has that line ever received a district easement?
That I can't answer.
Well, then could we have that put on the agenda for next time?
I can ask. Okay.
Well, you can ask, you said it. Because that's something that's been hanging here for, God, many, 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 many years. I think there could be some district liability attached to that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'll call for a vote to approve our consent agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we do know that Mr. Ross is not here. You have that noted, correct? Okay. Moving on, adoption, discussion, and action items 5A, which is pages 28 through 34. This is the draft budget for the fiscal year of 2017-2018. Any comments or you want to? Pages 28 and 34.
I'm looking and starting.
It is also included the organizational chart.
Yeah, unfortunately, starting on page 28, the staff report, when I inserted that, I inserted it after the preliminary budget. Normally
That's
it
what
has
I
a
was
staff
going to ask.
report.
I was like, is it typical that the preliminary budget is prior to?
No,
That's why I hesitated there for a second. I was like,
Okay.
You mean the preliminary?
right here, we show proposals
Yeah.
in what we just approved. It seems like this should have come before
It
that.
should, yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I was on.
it's the same. I mean, they're all on agenda item 5A. It's the fact that the staff report. I was sitting there looking for information about a topic that came up today, and I remember writing it, but it was in the staff report, and so I got lost, and it wasn't right before the budget, the draft budget.
So by approving the consent agenda, because this was piled in with it, did we just approve? Okay.
That's not
That's what I want to make sure.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure we didn't somehow make a mistake and approve the budget
Oh, no.
before we even talk about it.
Thank you, Jim, for your clarification.
So, I know there's a lot of numbers, but I would like for you to start on page 28. When we look at the budget process, there's really 2 ways of going about it. There's actually more than that, but traditionally, district will either adopt a final budget before when we look at the budget process, there's really 2 ways of going about it. There's actually more than that, but traditionally, district will either adopt a final budget before July 1st. And then you're done with it, and you just get going for the rest of the year. Or there are some districts that do a preliminary budget before July 1st, and then come back and you've got until the 1st of September to do a final budget. So it's really just, it's something we probably should take up in a policy statement on exactly how the board wants the budget timed, and when we want to see that go forward. I'm sorry.
How are we doing this year?
This is being proposed as a preliminary budget for adoption.
For this year? the
Yeah,
one
for
we're
adoption
finishing
Last
now.
time we did
How
it
did we do
once.
it last year?
We did it once.
What, I think
We did a single action.
We didn't do a final before the,
we didn't do a preliminary before the final, I think, is what
we did not do a
No, we
preliminary.
did not.
I didn't think so either, but we
We
had
did
a
a
budget.
single budget action.
That was clean, it worked.
And it does, but I just, there are too many projects going on, too many things, too many unknowns, too many unresolved issues to be able to move it this year. I mean, I could have thrown it out there, but I think we would have been a little bit preliminary. We've got a lot of projects going on. And that's
in your report on what you call in the staff report, page 30, the bottom item 4 and 5, addition of a 600-foot water line replacement on Hormiga Lane, addition of the replacement of 2 service vehicles that are over 14 years old. I was kind of concerned. I didn't understand. Is this just because the line is bad on the 600-foot line? Is that we're having a lot of leaks? Or
it's Bluebell,
okay,
which is an inferior product. It's a
Okay.
thin wall PVC that keeps blowing up, and it's a long length of it, and every time a section is replaced, the next section blows up, and
okay.
it's just, it's a lot like the service lines, improperly bedded, so it has pressure against the side, and it cracks instead of just has a small leak. When it breaks, it just like a regular PVC pipe when it opens up.
Okay.
So-
One of the things I noticed in here, new capital purchases / improvement projects, is a portable generator. I know they talked about a tamper or compactor for doing street repairs. Do you feel, where I'm going with this is, did Randy submit any kind of information on tools that his team needed, or have any input on what was in this budget here? I mean, because generators are pretty cheap, but I know that it seems like we've struggled to get the right tools for these guys. So I just want to make sure that it's all we need is a generator, from a tool aspect of any kind of purchases.
It's going to maintenance versus construction.
Okay.
And the generator is to be able to clean the valve boxes so we can get in and operate the valves.
Okay.
On
I'm not questioning buying a
Yeah.
generator. I'm all for it.
No,
My question is, did we say, what other tools do we need that will support our maintenance plan and move us forward? That's what I'm
Yes.
asking. Okay.
And that's where the vehicles and the downtime that we're seeing with the vehicles and the unreliability and all of that, as well as the generator came from. Because the last generator they purchased apparently was relatively cheap and didn't give a long service life. Don't know the exact make and model of what's being proposed, but those are all good questions. That is, you'll see that when you look at the numbers, those are reflected in a table showing the approximate cost.
Right.
For example, when you do an approximate cost on a 600-foot water line, there's no way to really know.
Well, yeah.
Other than using construction estimates on a per foot basis for projects that have been awarded.
Well, it kind of brought it to my attention that we're doing one line. I thought, okay, well, why are we just doing one line? I thought, was there something else, there at the same time or whatever? Is there any service lines off of Hormiga? Meaning, while we have that dug up, I'm saying 2 for 1. We have the street dug up, we have all the service lines exposed, can we replace those at the same time? Is that a possibility? So we don't have to go back and tear the street up again? I mean, I don't know how many service lines that would be, but you know.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, the thing is, when you, in these streets, you're not going to do a really good job if you've got, you're trying to saw cut it and just remove that little bit and then make a nice patch. That patch is going to be the best. That's where everybody's going to want to put their tires, on that trench, that 600-foot trench patch.
Right.
But yeah, you would definitely want to replace anything that was coming off of that. I don't know in that location if there are service lines.
Yeah, I'll leave a note and I will follow it up with an email to you.
Okay. But that would be a design consideration when we have it, because we do it at minimum. If we can, it will likely be less than our bid amount, our formal bid amount, so then we can do informal bids, which would mean we'd have a fairly simple process of construction. It wouldn't take as much engineering and all that required documentation. If there are any, you know, there's a lot of words in the list of items that were taken into consideration in the budget, and I want you to know that anytime we talk about a 5% change in cost, doesn't mean that we know for an absolute fact that we're going to see a 5% change in cost. We can spend a lot of time to analyze the past and analyze the trends and come up with more exact numbers on the budgeting. But the purpose of this budgeting is to do our best job of estimating revenue and expenses. It's not a mandate that we have to live within an exact amount of operating expense in any one particular category. So I'll entertain any board questions, and I can cover anything in more detail. Again, it's a preliminary action. Then it's up for, we can have it on the agenda for each of the next 2 meetings if you want, but we would be publishing the notice of public hearing and then having it on the agenda for the final budget with any additions or changes in August.
One thing that I see is item number 1 on page 30. Following budget assumptions were added following the board meeting on May the 17th. It talks about adding a position, and that was an assumption that was reflected in the preliminary budget. But if I look at the numbers for the plant, because they're talking about operations manager position, I only see an increase in the proposed budget for $38,000. And when I look at the medians on the information you provided, looks like about 80K is the rougher. So are we saying we're going to try to hire somebody for $38,000?
No.
That seems pretty doggone low based on the numbers I see.
I'm not going to get into
I don't want to get into
personnel
too much
details, but
right.
the head count, the total overall head count would not change.
Okay.
And
it
that's
says
what
that
makes,
somewhere.
if we're not adding a 4th body.
Gotcha. I remember reading that.
So that is the biggest reason. It goes up because of the
offset
salary
is about
differential.
38,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I suspected that. But
On your org chart, Pete, I noticed you put office manager, but there was no mention of board secretary. So I think we need to highlight that as well, so we make sure that we retain those duties and responsibilities. That says on page 34, there was no mention of a board secretary. I know between the office manager does both positions. So
Yeah,
I'd like that, make sure we have that distinction in there, that we do have a board secretary.
Yes.
so we're approving this work chart too?
This is preliminary, I just want to make sure if we're going to bring this back, that he has time to make these corrections.
The appointment of the board secretary and the treasurer is the board's discretion for that particular function. In other words, you don't hire the secretary, you don't go out and recruit and review the performance and everything, but it's a designation of appointment. In many cases, it might be the general manager who's appointed as treasurer and secretary. It might be a separate person who's got that designation. It's not necessarily a job description. It's more of it's a function. Because it could be, let's just say, that is, it's a responsibility that exists within the district. And the board, we get a different person in Cindy's position. The board might delegate, the general manager might designate the general manager as the board secretary.
Right.
And that might not ever change. But that doesn't mean you don't get another Cindy in
Right.
and delegate that work to them.
I prefer, and I don't know how the rest of the board, I still think we need the distinction on the org chart, because if we're giving this appointment right now, there's no indication that we have somebody appointed. So I would like you to put it back on here, and, if we have to go through a formal process to appoint, or, say that, then we could put who our office manager is by name and who the board secretary is by name, just for organizational purposes. So I would like to see that box. You can put it, another line, and then however you want to put it. But I want that distinction, because I want to make sure we can stay consistent the way we've been operating or organized under the, because we seem to be working well. So